Everyone, and welcome to Homeland Security Today's interview with some of the movers and shakers in Homeland Security. This is Christina Taneschuk, Executive Editor of Homeland Security Today, and today we're very excited to sit down with Ryan Propis, who's the Vice President of Security and Facilitation at the U.S. Travel Association. Welcome, Ryan.
Hey, good morning. Thanks so much for having me, Christina.
We're thrilled to have you. We know that the nation is preparing for a lot of exciting events coming up, from the 2025 Ryder Cup to the 2028 Summer Olympics. And the U.S. Travel Association has put together a pretty incredible report after their Commission on Seamless and Secure Travel. So we wanted to sit down with you because, of course, TSA is a huge part of that. The safe travel of people and products in and out of the country is extremely critical to both our economy and, of course, to safe people. And so we wanted to sit down with you as debates around TSA and its functionality and all of that are raging here in DC. So, what was the overarching vision behind creating the world's most advanced and secure airport screening process, outside of the fact that TSA is in the news every day today? Because you started this way before this debate started.
Yeah, thanks. We kicked this off over a year ago, so it was a full year-long approach with really incredible folks, chaired by former acting secretary and commissioner of CBP Kevin McAleenan. Really good crew of folks that were leading the commission's work. The intent was, hey, look, we're at an inflection point in this country. We've got all these major events coming up, as you noted, this mega decade of events: Ryder Cup, Club World Cup, Olympics, another Olympics. So there's a lot coming up. Are we ready to welcome the world for these events? That was the big piece of this. That was a big question. And not only that, are we ready to facilitate from a secure standpoint the millions of people that would be coming internationally, and then of course traveling domestically? And I think candidly the answer at the time was, we don't think we're ready, and we have a lot of work to do. We can definitely get there, but we've got work to do. And this commission in the report was really, the intent was to lay out a blueprint for the government, for whichever administration was coming in. Of course, this was back last year, and we were working on it. Whichever way Congress went coming into this year, make sure that everybody had a blueprint, from policymakers all the way across through the industry.
Excellent. And so, as we look at travel just as individuals, we all want to get through the airport as fast as possible. And when you travel to some of the other airports around the globe, they've really modernized and are able to move people very quickly with pretty stringent security. How did the report reconcile the goal of reducing that travel time, because that's where all the complaints come from, and the needs to strengthen security and keep us safe in an environment where the threats just increase?
Yeah, and that's a great question. I think that's kind of the constant question, as you know well, in the Homeland Security space since 9/11, is this sort of rub between efficiency and facilitation versus, security and making sure that things are done correctly. The exciting thing about this, the things that we looked at, and what we've seen now in sort of modern travel and transportation, is that you really can have both security and efficiency at the same time. And the big key to that is technology. The ability through biometrics and automated screening and leveraging AI is phenomenal. For number one, of course, I think everyone knows, what that can do to speed up processing, either at the checkpoint or elsewhere, to get folks through faster, more efficiently, more pleasant experience. But I think the ability to enhance security is something that we're extremely excited about. Biometrics confirmation versus manual identity verification is completely a game changer. When you talk about looking at every image of every bag that goes through a machine versus leveraging AI to detect certain anomalies in the bag and point the officer where they need to look and where they should be targeting their attention, and moving those bags that are clear and don't need to be looked at, and allowing those officers to focus on the bags that maybe are an issue, or the travelers that maybe do raise questions. That is a massive security enhancement. And it just so happens that it actually provides a major efficiency and benefit to travelers as well.
Yes, it is quite a struggle. It took us 25 years to implement the Real ID Act. So hopefully, with the concerns that people have around being tracked, we can kind of show how much that impact is important for security to the traveling public. Being able to make sure that, TSA agents or the folks protecting those airports and those airplanes are able to spend their time where it's best utilized as opposed to manually screening each. Um, the report really envisions a full transformation of TSA screening within 5 years. What are the major risks or barriers that you see meeting that timeline? And really, I mean, we're already behind for the events coming up. So, what do you see as the major problems or challenges to us getting this done?
Yeah, I mean, the upfront concern is, as of right now, based on current funding in the current procurement timeline and process, TSA is not going to have their state-of-the-art technology. So the credential authentication technology, which does the identity verification, and the computed tomography, which does the 3D bag scanning, those will not be implemented or won't be fully deployed until the late 2040s at this point, which is ridiculous. Over 20 years down the road, the technology at that point, who knows what technology will be out there, will be way behind the curve. Obviously, as you mentioned, you're seeing airports across Asia and Europe that have this technology and have had it for years. And we are very piecemeal in the US. Obviously, it's a different challenge here, where we've got over 400 airports, a largely federally run operation, reliant on congressional appropriation. So that creates challenges. But funding is the number one challenge. We have to increase the funding for technology. While there may be some concerns that, where are we going to find the funding and whatnot, we've got a couple solutions to this. Number one, an investment up front in technology specifically actually saves money on the back end. It improves obviously security and efficiency. So that alone obviously is a high value for making such an investment. But the tail, if you will, the costs on the back end of technology beyond maintenance is relatively low once you get the technology deployed. And the second piece of this is we have the passenger security fee that Congress authorized post 9/11, which every traveler pays in the US when you have a US flight. You pay roughly over $5 each one-way ticket. And that money, which is originally intended to go back to TSA to pay for aviation security, a large portion of that is actually diverted away from TSA to Treasury for general deficit reduction, which is a huge problem because that's a huge source of money that could be going into reinvesting into aviation security, specifically technology at the checkpoint. It would sustain that technology. It would get the technology out there much quicker, instead of paying for other random federal government costs that the travelers have no idea that they're paying for. I think when you talk to most folks, they think that they're paying for, if I'm paying something that says passenger security fee, I assume that's going to aviation security. People are, including members of Congress who find out, are pretty upset, as you can imagine, because they feel like they were almost, hoodwinked into thinking, oh, okay, I'm paying for this one thing, but I'm actually not doing that. And that gets you over about $1 billion a year, which is massive for technology. That's why we say within 5 years, if you could get that funding directed back towards TSA, the investment would be massive. The timeline would speed up, and you could have the state-of-the-art technology we're talking about across the entire US system within 5 years.
Yeah, that timeline is too long. And so as people are listening to this and as I'm thinking about what you're saying, I think one of the things people might be asking is like, well, who cares? Like, the airport works. I get through it. Yeah, it takes me a little longer. What's the big deal? Talk to us a little bit about the impact on the economy and what this means, even beyond security, because it's not just a matter of safe and secure passengers. It also has a huge impact on our economy, and the report talked about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as you mentioned, the security benefits we've been talking about are absolutely massive. So that alone is something that is incredibly intriguing, obviously, to industry, to government, and others. But the economic benefit of this, by increasing efficiency at the checkpoint at airports, being able to increase the number of flights, being able to increase the number of travelers that come into the U.S. and through the U.S. and travel around the U.S., that is a massive economic impact to not only the country as a whole, but certainly state and local entities around the country, to bring in additional international travelers, to bring in additional Americans traveling around. When you think about, America 250 coming up, folks are going to be traveling all around the country. going to historical sites, going to, certainly larger cities, but also smaller towns and national parks, bringing in more investment and money into those areas. But if we're not able to facilitate that travel in a secure way, we're going to be challenged, and we're not going to be able to maximize that opportunity. According to our assessments, what we had looked at was around 40 million travelers and an almost $100 billion economic opportunity for this next mega decade of events. If we maximize this and do it right, modernize our system and bring in folks securely, but maximize what we can do in terms of bringing in additional international travelers and moving people across the country domestically, that is a unheard of economic opportunity. And as we talk to folks around the world, they still say to us all the time, we can't believe the U.S. has this many huge events in the US. It's unheard of. Even one World Cup alone is massive. It's going to be the largest World Cup they've ever had. They're basically doubling it in size. That alone would be massive. But on top of multiple Olympics, a Ryder Cup, the Club World Cup, all of these things, the opportunities are absolutely massive.
That's awesome. Well, your report came right at the right time. So thank you very much for joining us. We've been talking to Ryan Propis, who's the Vice President of Security and Facilitation at the U.S. Travel Association. And if you want to learn more about the Commission on Seamless and Secure Travel, we'll be providing the website. And we've been covering it at HS today as well. So thank you, Ryan, for joining us. And we look forward to an even better airport experience for everyone around the globe. Thank you for your work.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much and appreciate all the work you guys do.
Thank you.